That means whose bodies are disposable and whose are not. Who is marginalized? That means which human body is marginalized in the society. For example, in a say non-Muslim dominated society, generally the Muslims are the marginalized and vice versa. How does the body become a site of violence? That means how can human body can experience violence, or can it be the pivot of violence? uh, we will explore this now. So these two pictures actually to show that how power is exhibited within human body. So we know in both pictures we see dead bodies. Treatment of the dead bodies by the state actors are quite different. So on the top left, you can see that the dead bodies were piling on the streets of in somewhere in Afghanistan, where the relatives were trying to recognize the dead bodies or identify the dead bodies. On the bottom right, you could
Yes,
see that
he's going somewhere.
American patriot or American soldier who lost
Please
his
don't go to the washroom. Please
life
don't go to
in
the washroom.
Afghanistan while fighting the war against terror, and his body was received with utmost respect. I mean, with the highest state protocol, and the president himself was there to receive the body. So if we just remove the tags or the nationality tags from these two human bodies, it's not that there is any difference between them until or unless there is a biological difference. But what does these two picture indicate? That the politics or state level, or the way one country is powerful and one citizens are more powerful than other citizen, it does show that how human body is a site of politics. That means had it not been a body of a United States soldier, probably the treatment could be different. So this case study was raised by Hindman, who calls for the more relational way of engaging with civil casualty where the true human cost of war surfaces. That means rather than saying that it's a civilian death, it's a military death, or it's Afghanistan's people dead body, it's an American citizen's dead body, we need to consider them as human. Questions of violence are a vital way through which to foreground the body in geopolitical discourse and to shed light on the inequalities associated with safety and security. And gender violence is intimately interwoven into geopolitical context and relations. Remember, geopolitical context, we are bringing it to our homes. That means gender violence from home to state in every possible layer. Wherever we can actually see it, we need to analyze it. So this brings us to the framework that is provided by Johan Galtung. You will read about his theoretical framework and his contribution when you have that course, Peace and Conflict Studies. So we will use this framework to understand different manifestation of violence. So as you could see, there are two sorts of violence. One is visible violence, the other one is invisible violence, as you could see on the screen. Can you see it on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here, the direct violence, that means the violence that we often see. For example, someone is physically beating someone else. But there are so many other forms of violence that are invisible to our naked eyes. For example, cultural violence, for example, structural violence. So structural violence is a violence whereas we should not, or any individual is not directly responsible for the violence, rather the structure. It could be the economic structure, it could be the social structure, it could be the religious structure, it could be the political structure, which is rather responsible for the creation of violence. And in other in other cases, it's the culture. That means there is a certain culture within a society which is responsible for violence. So uh, to give one example of this, say structural violence, can anyone give one example of a structural violence that where the structure is the main perpetrator for violence? Is there any example that you can think of now?
So the increasing price of daily goods.
Mm-hmm. Great. So it's an So who's to blame for it? It's the economic structure, right?
Yes, sir. The economic structure.
Or even say when one country denies visa to another country. That is also structural violence, or sometimes you could say that yes, the structure is now responsible here. And what is cultural violence? Where the culture represents the violence itself. So here you can mention the case of dowry as well. Again, some cases are overlapping. Overlapping means that they can be cultural, they can be structural at the same time. So as you could see on the left, there are two pictures which shows that the violence against women, not only the direct violence, but also the indirect violence. So in the bottom picture, you could see the female activists, they were asking for the rights of abortion, and on the top, you could see that it's more about the societal violence that we see, not only the somatic or the physical violence, but also other forms of violence. So some of the placards, as you say, that boys will be boys, good humans, good humanist, right? So it should not be the case. And also, it brings us to another case that while recognizing how pervasive such form of violence against women are, feminist geographers are also remind us of the importance of practices of resistance and reclaiming everyday people. That means how people from their day-to-day life perspective create resistance against this form of violence, be it direct violence, be it indirect violence, be it visible violence or invisible violence. So violence is also racialized and shaped by wider structural political problems. So this case, I think you know the case of George Floyd, right, in United States,
Yes.
when he was suffocated to death by a sheriff in United States. So that led to the rise of everyday resistance. That means from based on that particular case, especially people from background of that is similar to of George Floyd, and obviously from other backgrounds as well, they are standing against this sort of racial violence. So this also indicates another thing, that feminism is not only about the rights of the females. Obviously, the large portion of feminism deals with it, but it also talks about everyday resistance. So, a structural understanding of violence allows us to understand how racism is buried alive. That means, yes, we say that racism is not anymore there, but it's still there, and that it is embedded into every practices and life. So an intersectional approach, that means the intersection between one or two or more perspectives to understand gender and racism. So what is actually intersectionality? Intersectionality seeks to highlight that when we think about lived experience, for example, violence that individuals experience in their everyday life, we should not see categories such as gender and race as separate or discrete. Rather, we should see it as a whole package. That means we should not say, okay, it's a violence against women, probably. No, we need to see it as a whole, whether it's only the females who are experiencing it, or the male as well, or the whole society itself. So that's why Crenshaw argues that we need to think about such categories together in order to understand the complex ways that a number of our identity factors. So what could be our identity? Our identity could be gender, say for example male or female. It could be based on race, Muslim, non-Muslim, Christian, non-Christian, Buddhist, non-Buddhist, then based on our ethnicity, Bengali, non-Bengali, Indians, non-Indians, then based on age, young, children, then aged people, then health, whether you are okay or you need physical support or you are handicapped, and employment status, for example, whether you are employed or unemployed. Often, so these sort of identity factors often work together to compound inequalities and privileges. For example, you can see so many categories, but sometimes violence could be based on one category or a combination of three or four categories. So we need to have a very flexible understanding that where this violence is happening. Is it based on gender, or is it based on race, or is it a combination of both? gender, and race. Now that brings us to the second part of our discussion, actually the third one, which is emotion. That means how body and home is also a part of our emotion. So the role of emotion in geopolitics, just hold on a second. Let me open the other slides. Because I need to show you some types of emotions. Can anyone please explain what is emotional intelligence? Anyone? Anyone? What is emotional intelligence? Could anyone please explain what is emotional intelligence? Are you listening?
We're using emotions as the X factor in our daily life.
Could you please elaborate?
I mean, sir, using the emotional part, emotions of people to for politics or
Sir, can
economy.
I answer?
Sorry?
Sir, can I answer?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, I'm not sure, but I think it is the ability to perceive or understand or manage or handle emotions.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. Anyone else? So, your perspective is more towards the management of one's emotion, right?
Yes, sir. The
Anyone
management
else?
and how we perceive it.
Okay. Okay. So the role of I'll come back to that later on. The role of emotion in geopolitics has long been considered marginal because in geopolitics it's all about war, conflict, power projection, then expansion, things like that. But the role of emotion has always been marginalized. However, feminist geographers have brought emotion into consideration. Emotion animate and underpin, that means justify the geopolitical in so many ways, many of which are yet to be explored. That means this field of study is still at its infancy. That means its very embryonic phase is still uh, getting structured. That means this field, emotion as a part of geopolitics, is still developing. Research has been conducted to explore these sensitivities further, but fear received far more attention than any other sensitivity. So, emotion, in other words, our mental sensitivities, you could see there are so many types of emotions that we have in our body. For example, joy, trust, anticipation, anger, disgust, sadness, surprise, and fear. But out of these, say, 8 group of emotion, although this is not an exhaustive list, there are so many other emotions there. In our studies, say for example geopolitics, or say in bigger scale it's international relations, the fear probably received far more attention than other form of emotion. So what do we mean by fear? Fear, it could be terror, it could be timidity, or it could be panic, fright or apprehension and dismay. So this is not also the complete list of fear. Fear could be of different types. So now you see we have so many fears, like I know that those who are listening, we have at least one type of fear that is projected here. Have a look, 10 to 15 seconds, and see whether you have at least one form of fear in your life or not. So the first one, it's say fear of animal, fear of numbers, fear of imperfection, which many we have, fear of colors, fear of sleep, fear of doctors, fear of marriage or commitment, king, fear of love, fear of woman, fear of accident, fear of spiders, fear of birds, fear of snakes. Is there anyone who doesn't have any of this fear? Is there anyone?
Yes, sir. I don't have any phobia among these you mentioned.
Okay. Is there any other phobia do you have which is not mentioned here?
Yes, sir. I have trypophobia and I have the fear of large trees.
Here we go. Right?
Yeah, the dental phobia.
Yes. So there are so many types of phobias that we have. So aerophobia. Do you know aerophobia?
Yes, sir. The fear of flying at high altitudes.
Yes. And there are so many other phobias. For example, hydrophobia, isn't it? And there are photophobia. That means when you have fear of bright light. It could have different forms. So there's an interesting research that was carried by the Chapman University in California. So it's listed the top 10 fears of 2018 by for the Americans. And you see, above are the 10 fears for which the highest percentage of American reported being afraid or be very afraid. Now, in this, can you see terrorism? Can you see
No,
terrorism
sir.
here? No. Yet, at that time in 2018, United States was probably most worried about terrorism. So, in this list, it shows that 74% of the Americans fear or have a fear of corruption of the government officials. The second is the pollution of ocean, rivers, and the lakes, which is related to environment. And then, obviously, the pollution of drinking water. The second place, I mean, the fourth is 57%. There are two phobias. One is not having enough money for the future, that means which is related to your economic security, and people I love becoming seriously ill. Related to this is people I love dying, which I mean, always a persistent fear in our life. Then air pollution, then the extinction of plant and animal species, and then the global warming and climate change, and finally, the two phobias that they have are global warming and climate change and high medical bills. Now, consider this fear and think back in 2018, what was the major foreign policy agenda of United States? That means which are the areas that United States back in 2018 considered as the major threats to their national security? Think about that. In 2018, can you recall that? What are the major foreign policy priorities of United States in 2018? Anyone? Just think about it.
Sir, illegal immigrants.
Yes, illegal immigrants. Then anyone?
Sir,
North
China.
Korea's nuclear programs.
Yes, North Korean nuclear program, then Iranian nuclear program,
So the rise of China.
the rise of China, ISIS, isn't it? Russia. But do you see any of these foreign policy priorities, that means the insecurities that United felt that they need to tackle? Does it have any reflection on these particular statistics?
No,
No.
sir.
So this is the difference of feminist perspective. That means the fear that people encounter on day-to-day basis are quite different to that of a state. So if we consider or if we make our insecurities based on solely or simply taking the state's calculation into consideration, then probably we are missing a large part of the picture. That means the people who are experiencing it. For example, if I ask you, if I give you say 10 to 15 seconds and to list three major insecurities in your life, could you make a list of it? Is it possible for you to do so in 20 seconds? Three list of insecurities in your life in 2024.
Yes, sir.
Okay, have 20 seconds. I'll come back. Okay. Would anyone like to share his or her insecurities in 2024? Top three?
Sir, getting arrested by the police.
Okay. Why?
Sir, without any reason.
Okay, then. Second.
And
Second.
then, sir, losing my house to any natural disaster like earthquakes or
Mm-hmm.
fire.
Mm-hmm.
That could be one. And myself dying in a car accident, sir. Like a
Okay.
bus run over me.
Okay. Anyone else would like to share their top three? Top three insecurities that you have?
Sir, I would like to share.
Yes.
Sir, I think the first one would be not being able to manage myself when I live far from my home, my parents' home.
Mm.
And sir, the second one is sir, sudden death
Mm-hmm.
without accidents and stuff.
Mm.
And sir, third one is not being able to study like I did before.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone?
First one would be people I love dying.
Mm-hmm.
Second one is price hike. Third
Mhm.
one is sleeping issues.
Sleeping issues. Okay. Would anyone like to add? Okay. So we could say that we at least have 7 or 8 different types of fear, right? At least the 3 individual those who have shared with us. So that does indicate the diversity of fear that we have now. Think about those 7 or 8 and think about the state's priority. So that is quite different, isn't it? Because state perceives its security from one's perspective and individual perceives their security or insecurity from another perspective. So that's why what feminists are saying is that we need to take consideration of people's emotion. Now, having said that, it's not possible for any government to go door to door and ask, do you need any emotional support? What are the emotional fear that we have? Or what are the emotional insecurities that you have? Having said that, but it should be within the consideration that if there is any common public fear that arises, the government should be there to deal with it. Okay, this picture, have you seen this picture before? Anyone?
Yes, I have.
Where did you see it?
Oh, on news, like the chapter was afraid of the dog. They made him
Yes.
think about it.
Yes, so there was a lot of criticism of this particular act by Vladimir Putin because Angela Merkel, she had a fear of animals, especially of dog, and everyone knows about it. Having said that, I mean, when you know you are going to meet a state's head, you should have all the protocols in place. So many believe that it was intentional. It was a deliberate act by Putin just to show the masculine nature of his authority in a negotiation, right? That means just letting his dog, I mean, it's a leopard, in front of Angela Merkel just to show or to intimidate her or to create a sense of fear in the back of her head so that the negotiation goes as Putin planned. So in that picture, fear was mobilized as a direct strategy to intimidate, forming part of Putin's wider politics of machismo. Do you know machismo? Anyone? It's showing your masculinity, where shows of strength and masculinity are designed to present a particular image on the international stage in opposition to feminine weakness and fear. So fear has been an emotion or experience widely explored within political geography compared to other emotions. Fear does not exist in a social or political vacuum and is found in spatial sequences. That means fear doesn't appear all of a sudden. It always remains with us, but it needs that particular incident or that particular context when it falls. and a global existed in the post 9/11 war. So after the 9/11 incident, everyone in the world was have one common fear, that is the fear of terrorism. That means anyone may pop up on the street and may just blow up him or herself or blow up the vehicle, and you die in the process, or someone may shoot you. So these fears actually become globalized. That means it become worldwide or spread like wildfire across the world since after 9/11. So fear is named in the very naming of terrorism, with terrorists identified as agents of extreme fear seeking to make others afraid. So that is one common definition of terrorism that appeared after 9/11, and fear was probably the biggest emotion that was attached to it. Now you may say that how this emotion is related to geopolitics. Now think about it. Based on this emotion, using this emotion, United States launched its biggest war campaign in the 21st century. That means it was the biggest war campaign after the Vietnam War. So they spent nearly more than 20 years, or nearly 20 years in Afghanistan, spent billions of dollars. It was not only United States who was fighting there, it was the NATO and the allied forces who were also fighting there, based on simple one human emotion, and that is fear. So fear was used to justify the protracted, remember, means long. That means something that is happening for a long time. So protracted war on terror and its associated interventionist policy. That means you need to intervene whenever you say there's a sense of terrorism there in Afghanistan and Iraq. Excuse me. One of the tragedies of a post 9/11 world has been an unrelenting, multivalent assault on the bodies, psyches, and rights of Arabs, Muslims, and South Asian immigrants in Western countries. Because after 9/11, those who wanted to make their ways into the Western world, they had a problem, especially with their name. So if you have anything which is suggests that you are a Muslim, say for example part of our name, say Muhammad, if it's in your name, you are in trouble, because that does indicate that you are obviously coming from an Arab or a Muslim background, and you need to be interrogated more than any other citizens from any other background. So the detention of Muslim looking individuals and an epidemic of hate violence have been key components of this. Yes, a random security check, yes. Have been key components of this, exposing the precariousness of citizenship status for people of all color. That means your color, your body represents something for which you need to be interrogated, for which you need to be looked differently. So there is a need for a nuanced understanding of this emotion and geopolitical narratives around this globalized fear. That means we need to have a very flexible understanding. We need to have a context specific understanding before we apply to justify someone as dangerous or someone as secure. So there's a case study which shows that love under apartheid. So I'll show you the video, watch it, then I will come back. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Although she's speaking in probably Arabic or probably in Palestinian language, subtitles are available.
أنا فتحية البرغوثي، زوجة الأسير مجد الرماوي. طبعا هو معتقل من 11 سنة. قبل طفلين، عندنا طفلين، مرح وسائد. مرح 16 سنة وسائد 12 سنة. حاليا هو موجود في سجن نفحة، وأنا بشتغل في مديرية التربية والتعليم في رام الله. بعاني من المنع الأمني أو ما يسمى بالمنع الأمني، بيمنعوني من زيارته بشكل طبيعي كباقي أهالي الأسرى يعني. وإجمالا هم بيستهدفوا الزوجات والإخوة والأخوات للأسرى، بيستهدفوهم في المنع. وحاليا بيتم استهداف الأبناء والبنات وبمنعهم من الزيارات، بالضبط مثل ما صار مع بنتي لما كملت 16 سنة قاموا بمنعها من زيارة أبوها، وتضطر بما إنه صار عندها الآي دي كارد بطاقة الهوية بتضطر تقدم لتصريح. طبعا بموجب الطلب اللي بتقدمه للمخابرات هم بإيدهم يرفضوا أو يقبلوا إلها إنها تزور أبوها. خلال 7 شهور زارت أبوها مرة واحدة في إطار ما يسمى بالمنع الأمني لزيارة الأسير. طبعا علاقتي مع مجدي جدا قوية ومميزة الحمد لله يعني. حتى في ظل غيابه لمدة 11 سنة كل يوم بحس إنه العلاقة بتتطور بطريقة إيجابية، في طاقة إيجابية عم بتنولد فيي وفي أسرتي، وأكيد عنده نفس الطاقة. واللي بيعبر لي عنها هو في الزيارات اللي كل سنة مرة بزوره كلها بتكون عن تطور العلاقة بطريقة إيجابية. طبعا أنا مبسوطة كثير لأنه الأمور رايحة بالاتجاه الإيجابي، وهو مبسوط كثير لأنه الأمور رايحة بالاتجاه الإيجابي. حتى العلاقة انعكست على طريقة تفكير أولادنا في أبوهم، طريقة تفكير أولادنا في العلاقة بين الزوج والزوجة في بناء الأسرة، لاحقا في بناء المجتمع. إذا بتكون الأسرة سوية صحية طبعا بيكون في مجتمع صحي. وهي هدفي إنه في ظل غياب مجدي تظل العلاقة إيجابية وتظل العلاقة قوية جدا وحميمية. طبعا مجدي أنا لما ارتبطت فيه بعلاقة حب يعني لمدة 5 سنوات. كان هو من عيلة وأنا من عيلة، وصعب جدا يصير زواج في العيلتين. وكان هو مطارد في الانتفاضة الأولى، انتفاضة الحجارة. في الانتفاضة في هاي الانتفاضة إنه البنت ترتبط في شخص مطارد، يعني إنه هي ربطت مصيرها بالمجهول باللا معروف. وهذا كان تحدي كبير، عدا عن إنه الجانب الاجتماعي اللي كان في تحدي اجتماعي إنه العيلتين ما في بينهم نسب، ما في. ومع ذلك يعني أصرينا على الارتباط والحمد لله زبطت وقدرنا نتزوج ونجيب البنت ونجيب الولد الحمد لله. وكثير أنا مبسوطة إنه مصيري ارتبط في هذا الشخص تحديدا، يعني في مجدي الرماوي تحديدا. جدا بكون مصدر فخر إلي ومصدر الطاقة الإيجابية اللي بتمتع فيها في حياتي، واللي قادر بموجبها أنطلق وأشتغل وأنجح وأدير بالي على حالي وعلى أولادي وعلى عائلتنا ككل. اللي بالتالي هاي الأمور كلها بتخلي مجدي من جانبه برضو يرتاح أو بتعزز صموده وبتعزز موقفه في قضيته اللي هو بناضل من أجلها. طبعا بعد مجدي عنا يمكن بشكل مجرد بيكون بيحسوا الواحد إنه صعب، إنه إشي ممكن إنه إحنا ما نتعود عليه أو ممكن ما نتعايش معه. لو حسب العلاقة اللي ربطتنا فيه بشكل مجرد يمكن أي حدا من برا يطل على الموضوع يحس إنه ممكن ما نقدر نتعايش معه، بس بالعكس تماما يعني بالعكس تماما قدرنا نتعايش معه. وقدرت لأنه هو إنسان لما ضحى بحريته مشاني ومشان أولادي ومشان وطن، فكرة الوطن اللي أكبر من الجميع اللي ساكنة فيه. وهذا مبعث للأمان عندي، يعني أنا إنسان تضحوي لهذا الدرجة، إذن هو أنا بكون جنبه قمة الأمان إلي ولأولادي. هذا من الجانب الإنساني والاجتماعي. يعني الجانب العاطفي طبعا هذا إشي يمكن صعب إني أترجمه بالكلمات، يعني إنه بحس إنه كلمات العالم كله ولغات العالم كله يمكن تعجز إنها تترجم أو تعبر عن حبي لمجدي وحبه إلي.
Any query from this video? Any query? Have you understood what she said? Yes.
Yes, sir.
So from outside, whatever we see, probably people have a different experience, right? So it's a lived experience that an individual have, and it quite could be quite opposite of our traditional conception of how we understand emotion and its different manifestation. So finally, feminist geopolitics, which is a transformation and intervention in critical geopolitics, encourages us to reflect carefully and critically on both the people, voice, and experiences that we see
Anan.
presented in the world around us, and on how diverse actors experience and shape political power in different ways. That means how individuals can be influential in shaping political space. It connects global and or international politics to the
Oh
micro
god.
scales of mundane. Do you understand mundane? Mundane means dull or everyday into consideration, which otherwise would remain in the margins of political consideration. Hence, understanding the home, body, or emotion is of particular interest and importance. So remember these three words: home, body, and emotions. That is the main focus of feminist geopolitics.
Good.
That means they try to add this within the political consideration and geopolitical consideration along with state and power. So feminist geopolitics adopts different methods. For example, walking that allow everyday context, scales, and experience to emerge. That means rather than just having a look from the above, you need to sometimes walk on the streets. You need to sometimes talk with the people so that you can get their perspective, what they need, what they feel, and what they perceive about power. Uh, do you know about the Manchester bombing? Anyone?
Sir, can you repeat, sir, please?
Do you know the Manchester Arena bombing in 2017?
I think you talked about it in our first class.
Sorry?
I think you talked about it in one of the class where you were showing the slides on like different areas around London.
Okay, so it was a terrorist attack, right? So why I'm bringing this particular example is how sometimes individuals and common people's emotions can actually shape a state's policy. So what is it
Bhai mane?
that there are so many casualties in that particular incident because it was a musical uh, event that was taking place at that time in 2017, and following
আমি
that
তো
there
আমার
were so many
মালিহাকে
people who lost their lives, and in there was one person whose name was Martin, and his mother said following the incident that we need to have a different law for these public events. That means spatial checking, identity, and everything in order to ensure that these sort of cultural places remain immune to the terrorist attacks. And following this demand, there was a social media campaign, and also there were protests on the streets. And following that, the UK government was actually formulated a law following years, which is now known as the Martini Law, which indicates that whenever you need to have this sort of public gathering, say in form of a concert, you need to have spatial security places securities in place. You need to have body checks. You need to have identity confirmation and everything. So see, someone who lost their kid from that emotion, and using that emotion she is probably changed or has actually changed a state's perspective towards security. So that's why what feminists are trying to say is that sometimes it is important to reflect on human emotions, not only the emotions, but also where the emotion lives. That means in our body. And our body actually shows the reflection of our emotions, that when we are angry, when we are happy, when we are static, we actually show different types of body languages. So these body languages, according to feminists, are also important. Now, if you have any query regarding the topic, before I record your attendance. Any query from anyone? And that's brings the conclusion of our midterm exam. That means all these 4 topics will be within the syllabus. And on next Sunday, due to public holiday, we'll have no classes. And the following Tuesday, next week, we will have a review class on all those 4 topics that we had so far. And if you have any query on any topic, any clarification that you need, feel free to ask in that question. I will try to clarify it, because I will not have any in-person or physical classes with you before the midterm exam. So on 24th, you will have the exam, which will be on open book format. So have preparation on this, and by tonight you will have all the materials uploaded. I have uploaded for all the 3 other topics, and the slides will be for this 4th topic will be uploaded soon. So if you have any query.
Sir, could
Sir,
you
can you-
elaborate more on the open book exam?
Okay, who else? Someone tried to say something. Sorry, I didn't pick
Sir,
the
can
name.
you please provide the PDF copy of this book? I tried finding it and I couldn't find it anywhere.
This particular book.
Yes, sir.
The soft copy is still unavailable because it's just published last December. So what I'm trying to do is uploading each and every topic. Right. So I have the hard copy of the book, so I scan. Chapter wise. So once I finish this chapter, I upload it. So probably chapter feminist perspective. Did I upload it? I think so. I think it's uploaded.
Sir, can we use the soft copy of the book while giving the exam?
Never. I told you that no electronic gadgets, that means including your smart watch, will not be permitted in the exam hall.
So is there any limit to the materials that we can
If you
bring
need
to the room?
Sorry, could you please repeat?
Is there any limit that this much material you can bring?
Sir, ওইটাই just জিজ্ঞেস করছিলাম যে elaborate I guess we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Sir,
So to answer the first query, there is no limit of hard copies, right? You can bring as many books as you want, as many documents as you want, right? But there is no digital or reading materials should be. Yes.
Sir, actually I actually note my classwork by printing. So sir, can
Anything. If you think that I have an answer for it there, just have your books with you like that.
স্যার আরেকটি কোয়েশ্চেন ছিল আপনি এর আগে একবার ক্লাসে বলেছিলেন এক্সামে কি যে 4টা যে একটা টপিক দিয়েছেন এর থেকে কি মানে কোয়েশ্চেন আসবে অর এলস একদম আউট অফ দ্য টপিক কোয়েশ্চেন আসবে
No, out of the question would be analytical. Analytical means there would be